how much compute engine you need there, about the security and things like that. The most of the things are covered by the Google. You just need to connect that service via SDK to your app, or can be can be on the mobile side, can be website. Firebase have lots of SDKs covered in React, Flutter, and also native or also native JavaScript. And community is really big about that, and they are publishing new SDKs for for the other platforms that are not like mainly supported by the Firebase team, but they are still supported by the community. Usually, those SDKs are acquired by the Google. They will improve that SDKs and cover them with the new features. Firebase didn't start as a service. It started as a real-time database, and later it was acquired by Google. They saw the potential in the Firebase, and that real-time database is still there, but Firebase from that time grown so much. But where is the Firebase, and what is it really as a backend as a service? When you see like cloud on the Google, you have lots of options to build your product there. You can build your own VM infrastructure, query your own VMs there, configure them. You can do the containers. You can manage just an app and deploy to the containers managed by the Google. You can have serverless execution environment called Cloud Functions, or you can have Firebase. Everything is managed by the Google. They worry about your growing. They cover all the infrastructure and security, all the updates that are needed every day, and you just build your app and connect SDK. Firebase have 3 parts. They are called build, release, and monitor, and engage. Titles are pretty simple, and you probably already know from the titles what's going on there. Build is about building an app. Those features are helping you as a developer to build the app quickly with lots of features. Can be Firestore, can be like some cloud storage where you can deploy your images and docs and other things. You can have authentication there, because almost every app now needs the authentication. It's #1 feature used by Firebase users. And other features. After you deploy your app to production, you need to monitor that app. For those things, for those deploys, there is release and monitor part of the Firebase. You have Crashlytics, Google Analytics. You see every click, or you can monitor every click of your user in the app if he allows that, because everything needs to be allowed by the user. And last thing is the engage, because after 3 or 4 days, usually user, if the app is not that good, will forget about the app. But you have still new features coming, and you want him to go back to your app, and you want to engage him to go to your app. You can use Cloud Functions, remote config, and things like that. Notify him about new features and introduce him a new app that you improved, and get him back. Okay. I already mentioned some of the features, but there are lots of them. And I will not cover today all of them. I will cover like 50% of them. I will try mostly cover the build better apps part, the building, the developing things. But I will also mention other parts of the Firebase. First, I will start with the authentication. As I already said, it's the #1 feature from the Firebase. It's used by almost every big product on the Firebase. You can saw lots of companies on the Firebase website that are using Firebase, and most of them using Firebase authentication. Lots of them using also cloud messaging. That's the second most used Firebase feature, but I see lots of potential in other features in Firebase. I think they are just not seeing the the power of them. Authentication. Again, title is pretty simple and pretty self-saying, but it has pre-built UIs. What does it mean? You don't have to worry about the UI of the authentication flow in your app. You can use pre-built UIs in the Firebase SDK, just call them, and the sign-in flow will be done on a Firebase part. You just use the SDK, call it with the app, and everything after that is done by the Firebase. And when it's done, you know if the client is signed or not signed. It supports L2. You can use that authentication to do your own L2 endpoints. You can sign pretty much with every app out there. You can sign it with, I don't know, I don't remember any other app than the main ones, like the Google, Twitter, GitHub. But if you have any other like social website that you want to sign into and get like sign in with the weird social website button on your app, you can use OAuth2 in your authentication and sign your clients there. And Google, Twitter, GitHub, and other main social platforms. GitHub is not really social, but I will count it as a social platform now. Those are already done by the Firebase team, and pretty much you just include there the keys and the secrets, call it with the SDK, and all the authentication is done. Also, those things are going to be in the example. Firestore. Firebase have two databases, because database is really needed by the apps. You want to store data of the user without storing them on the device. You want to store them on the cloud to be able to sync multiple devices of the user. Firebase have two databases, Firestore and Realtime database. Firestore is NoSQL cloud database. What does it mean? There is no relation that you. There are small. I don't call it relation. You can do relations in a NoSQL in a Firestore, but they are not called relations, and it's still NoSQL. It's modeled as a collection of documents. I will do the UI part of the Firestore later. You're gonna see what's the collection of the documents, and it's horizontally scaled. It can scale really quickly. It indexes every part of the database. That means that it's really fast, and also it scales doesn't matter if you have 10,000 user, million user, Firestore is ready for that. It scales up to number of the users that you have. As I said, there are two databases in a Firebase, Firestore and Realtime database. What is different between them? On the left side, you see Realtime database. Sorry about the title, because it could be switched. But JSON tree is a real-time database. It's limited for the just basic queries. It's been updated last year at the end of the year. There are more queries than just the basic ones, but it's not strong as a Firestore. It's limited for the region. You can't have real-time database in multiple regions. It's usually deployed in the US or EU West part of the cloud. And it has limited scaling. It don't scale that much. But it's good it's much faster than the Firestore, and it's usually for small amount of data that you want to sync between the users really fast. It's not that bad, and you pay for the amount of things that you transfer and calls, but there's not much amount of money that you need to pay for that, but usually you pay amount of data that you transfer. Firestore, on the other hand, is collection of the documents. Each document is also JSON, but you can do the batch of the JSONs, and it's called collection. It has much stronger queries. You can do bigger than that, smaller than that. the query not equals doesn't exist in a Firestore in the real-time database, unfortunately. And it's regional or multi-regional. You can have deployed Firestore database in multiple regions, have smaller latency between the database and the client. And it has automatic scaling. I mentioned that on the last slide. I hope that you see the presentation. If not, sorry. It's saying that my internet connection. Do you just say me in the chat that you still hear me well? Because it's now said me that I don't have stable connection.
Yes, there some freeze for a while.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, the big difference between the Firestore you see on the screen. There is no relations in a real-time database. On the left side is a real-time database that's just basic JSON. You have keys and values. Values can be like simple string, integer, or the objects. Firestore have those JSONs as small documents, and those documents can be like managed as the collections. You can have like user collection. Each user have all work count collection. Each work count have like history collection and things like that. You can go down really quickly. Those things are called subs collections. I already said that most of the things. It's a newer solution. I like Real Cloud Firestore. I like it more than a real-time database, to be honest. But real databases are great. It's great for the chat, for example, or small unwanted data, as I already said. It's a newer solution inspired by the real-time database, the Cloud Firestore. Its model is stronger, and you pay for the reads and writes. There is not such things as paying for the amount of the kilobytes that you transfer between clients or between server and a client. There is nothing like that. There is, but it's not. You don't really pay for that much, but you pay for the reads and writes. And keep that thing in your mind when you like trying to use Cloud Firestore. Because you can pay really a big amount of money if you don't use Cloud Firestore well. And there is lots of examples on the internet that people didn't use Cloud Firestore that well, and they had to pay lots of money. It's horizontally scaled and shallow by default. What does it mean to be shallow by default? You don't see other sub-collection if you don't really ask for them. I can, in this example, the top part of the database is the users. If I download one user, there is sub-collection underneath him. Wait for it. I will try to. Okay, I can do the. Okay. The second part is the workouts. There's top thing is the users, underneath is workouts. And if you download one user, you don't see his workouts until you call for the workouts. That means that it's shallow by default. And that's great for the reads and writes part. Because if the user going to have lots of workouts, if it wasn't shallow by default, you would download lots of data and you would pay lots of money for that. And shallow is great for the Cloud Firestore. Let's continue from the databases because we stayed on the databases for a long time. Why does it work? Oh, sorry. Okay, cloud storage. It's a object storage service. You can see it as a disk, Google disk, but for your app. You can store like images, documents, doesn't matter. Almost any file can be stored on the cloud storage. It has higher scalability, high availability. It means that it's duplicated on multiple parts of the multiple parts of the world, in multiple regions, and usually your client has great connection to those data centers, and those files are copied to all of those data centers. You can say Firebase to not copy and stay just on one region, but usually it's called copying into multiple regions to have app around the world. As I said, it's like almost as a Google disk. You have all your files there. You have download URLs. You can download after the file is uploaded to cloud storage. You get the URL for that. For example, it can be avatar for the user. You can store avatar of the user on the cloud storage and get download URL for that and show with that URL on the app, and other users can show that image with that URL. Firebase hosting. It's an amazing thing for the web apps. I don't usually do web apps, but when I do web app, I will deploy it for 100% on a Firebase hosting. It's free hosting. I would love to say it's free forever. It's not really free forever. You're gonna pay for that, but after like 1,000 users, under that you don't really pay that much for your hosting. It has automatic backups. When you deploy your files through Firestore to Firebase hosting, the files that needs to be shown for clients, the files that have been there before ultimately in the backup. Those backups can be there like number of tens or more than that days in a Firebase until you deleted them. And you can like reverse your version to, for example, previous backup if you have packed there. That's great, or not? Cloud function. I call it the real backend of the Firebase because that's the only part of the Firebase where you deploy code. You can deploy code through Cloud function and call it from a client. That deployed code is available via HTTPS. It's called callable function. It can be also HTTPS, and that callable function is just available from your app. You can have URL that is available around the world, and there is also things called triggers. What is trigger? You have a large amount of triggers. I can go through them, like Cloud Firestore real-time database triggers, remote config triggers, Firebase authentication triggers. And what is trigger? Example. It's easiest to show things like that on the example. I have my user that now signing up to my app, and I can have Cloud function that waits until one user is signing up and do something with his data after the registration. Store, for example, his ID on a database, download his avatar from the Google, store example data for him to database, and other things or welcome him via notification. That's the authentication trigger, Cloud Firestore trigger. I will write something to my database, and Cloud function can automatically be called after that write. And again, is an example. I have chat messages in my database, and after you write chat message to your database, you can go through that message and find vulnerable words, for example, and clear them in that message and update that document in your database. Crash triggers. You can wait when your app crashes, notify your developers about the crash. Cloud pops up. I can go through them, but you get the idea. You can wait you can wait on the events that happen on the cloud and run the code after that. Okay, let's go. The code, the basic code needs to be written in a Node.js. Currently, Firebase supports Node.js 16, but it has also Python and Dart, not Go language, not Dart. It supports Node.js and part of Go, Python and Go. Python and Go is only supported through bit of configuration and only through the cloud, Google Cloud Console. Because Firebase is on the top of the Google Cloud. Nothing that is used by the Firebase is no different from the through Google Cloud. You can configure all of those features that you see in a Firebase through the Google Cloud Console. It's just on top of the Google Cloud with the nice UI and much friendly for the developers. Thanks, Zikmund, for the example in the chat. I see it now. We all the DevFest website that we have for Czech Republic till 2013 are all deployed on a Firebase and still running today. Machine learning. Again, pretty simple title for that. There are pre-built APIs. I don't really use machine learning because I will not talk too much about that because I'm not expert on the machine learning in a Firebase. But you have pre-built APIs. There are barcode detection, face detection, and other already pre-built machine learning models for your app. You can call them just from your SDK. I don't know. I have photo from my user, find barcode on that photo, and Firebase have pre-built APIs for that. AutoML, I will talk about it later, or you can deploy your custom TensorFlow model on the machine learning. TensorFlow is, by the way, library from the Firebase for the machine learning. This is the screenshot for AutoML. You can upload like thousands of images there and label each of them and create own machine learning model for your app with a nice UI. I used it for a presentation 2 years ago to do app hot dog or not hot dog. I deployed 500 images of hot dog there and 500 images of other food, and my app was able to detect all the hot dogs that I found on the internet that is really hot dog and not other like food. Okay, that's been all the features from the developer part. But analyze. I already said what's the like great part of analyzing. You need to know what's happening at the users. You need to know where are your users for localizations and do things like that. Google Analytics. Most of the analyzed things on hot dog detection, yeah. Zygmunt, yeah. Google Analytics, like 70% of the analyzed methods or the features are on top of the Google Analytics. The events, mostly the events, the user information is drawn to the Google Analytics function that will do the nice map for you. You know the number of users in each country. You know the devices that they are having. You know the version that they are running on, and that's usually needed information for your team. You also know how your users behaving in long term. If some event is growing up, and you can update that method to be quicker or to that button be bigger because it's most important, probably most important button in your app. Or if your users are leaving an app about 3 days after they downloaded your app. Performance monitoring. That's a kind of new feature in Firebase. Like, it's not been there for a long time, but it's been great to use that. You can track behavior of your app, but on the developer part. You know the endpoints that your app is using and track the number of seconds that it's taking to call that endpoint or get response from that endpoint. And if app gonna be slowing down and you're gonna see a red on this screen, usually it means that you have slow endpoints on it and you need to update them. Firebase crash statistics. I don't really like too much to talk about that. It's just like about crashing reports. If your app is gonna crash, you know about that. You know the line of code that's causing the crash and the number of users that have been that bug. That's great because I usually, as a developer, need that information and want to like track those crashes and like fix them and know that they are really fixed. Okay, it's been quick interaction of the Firebase. Now let's go through example. This is my app. This is my example app. My app have like 4 screens. I have authentication screen. There are 2 buttons: sign in with Facebook, sign in with Twitter. Funny, it's Google event, and I don't have sign in with Google button. I have sign in with email, also forgot password and terms and service and things like that. I have my activity feed. I know other users what they are doing. I have some comments there, some images, the dates it's been posted. Other screen is about the single user. I have his image. I have like his personal information like date he's been born, his name, his URL, and other important importation. And last thing is places near me. First, I will go through features. Sign in and sign up. Here, Facebook login, Twitter login, Google login probably going to be there too. Email login, registration, and you see close there. Close going to be important later because I will because some Firebase have an authentication feature that's allowing to close authentication and still be authenticated. Activity. You have feed and images. You can have notifications for those posts. Profile, user information, and profile image. There is nothing like difficult there. Nearby places. There are images there, comments, probably search, but search is kind of hard for this. But we will try to implement search. Okay, I will now use Firebase. For the sign up and sign in screen, I just need Firebase authentication. Nothing on that. All the buttons and all the events that are happening on the authentication screen can be covered just by the one feature that Firebase have. Activity. That's kind of harder because you can have real-time database or Cloud Firestore. Depends on your use case, but usually it's Cloud Firestore, but sometimes can be real-time database, Cloud Functions, Cloud Storage, and Cloud Messaging. Profile, use Cloud Firestore, Cloud Storage, and Firebase authentication. And Cloud Storage and Cloud Firestore for the nearby placing screen. Let's implement that. I will go through SDK that is happening on a Flutter, but be aware that the simple the simple implementation is usually on all the other SDKs that are out there, like the JavaScript, React, Vue.js, Angular, Android native, iOS native. Those SDKs are pretty much simple or sometimes simpler than the Flutter case. Okay, I included just the Firebase core to my app. I will do the sign-in. I include also Google sign-in because I want to have a cool Google login screen. And those 6 lines are needed just for the Google sign-in. First, I will get the instance. I will get the G user from the Google sign-in. I will get that authentication data, and I will store it as a credentials on a Firebase. After that, user is signed, and you know it's signed. SDK have great thing called real-time streams of the things that are happening on the authentication. If user will get deleted account or sign out, you can have callback directly on the SDK and show him the sign-in screen after sign out, and not worry about like super hardcore clearing of the authentication library. The close button, I already said that to you. You can sign user anonymously. That means that user is still signed into your app. It has own UID. It has been authenticated for the call function for your cloud functions. It can call database, but you don't have any other info than just his ID, and that unique ID is generated by your Firebase. That's a great feature sometimes because some of the users. Yep, I will answer Zygmunt's question. I will just say it. Do you still need to enable the authentication type at the Firebase GUI to make UI to make this work? Yeah, you have to enable those providers on the Firebase part or the Firebase console. Signing anonymously is not enabled by default. Usually, when you create new project in the Firebase, you have enabled sign in with email by default. You can disable it and enable those providers that you want. Sign in anonymously is own provider in the UI of the Firebase. And as I already said, it's a great feature for the users because they want to skip sometimes the login screen and see your features or your cool feature of the app. And after that, you can ask them for, I don't know, sign in with Google and merge those information together and have still one user and the authentication. And that's great because you have close button. That's an amazing feature, UX feature for the users. They can still see the amazing feed and amazing features and machine learning and other features that your app have. And if they want to be signed and have own, I don't know, image, you can ask them for sign it with the other provider. Can be also email and merge those providers to one account on your authentication part. And it's working like a charm, boys. All of those accounts are stored on the authentication. I have, for example, here 5 users signed with the Anonymous, one with the Facebook, one with the Google, and I have unique IDs for them. I have all and I have all important info that I need for that, for the authentication. Activity screen. Okay, I will include storage and cloud Firestore. By the way, Firebase is really working hard to have SDK as small as possible. They are like pulling features from the main SDK and include that in own SDK that you want. Because sometimes your app doesn't use all the features from the Firebase and you don't want big SDK. You can and they are just including your and include those features just with the smaller SDKs on its own. But the Firebase core is always needed. Storage and cloud Firestore. Oh, there have been small mistake on my slide. Sorry about that. Firebase storage. I'm going to how I'm going to put my data on the cloud storage. How I'm going to upload. No hard like call. I will ask for a Firebase storage instance. I will create some path there and upload file with my metadata. And the task snapshot, by the way, have also percentage progress of the upload. You can showcase that amazing upload to your user. And after that file is uploaded, you can get download URL. Firestore instance. I don't want to say much about that. It is pretty much simple. You call for the Firestore instance and upload your document, which is JSON, to the database. You see that it's not that hard, like usually 2 lines of code and you have full support of the database, full support of authentication and other cool features. And that's amazing thing about the Firebase. They want developers to develop app and their feature as quickly as possible. And Firebase needs to help with that. And things like simple SDK is a reason that Firebase is being supported or used by hundreds of apps out there or thousands on the Google Play or App Store on the websites. If you want to download data, by the way, don't worry about the code. There is below, like here. Don't worry about that. If you want to download data, you call for the collection on the feed, and this is a widget in a Flutter, and I'm waiting for all the changes in a feed and showing all the data, because you can have snapshots call in a SDK that's doing stream for you, that is giving you the latest data every time. Like if any other user will update data in the database and you calling the snapshot method from the cloud Firestore, you know about the update and show new data to your user. Okay, why does it work? Okay, sorry. This is the showcase of the snapshot method. Okay, it's been updated, and in a few seconds or milliseconds, it's updated on the client side. Firebase messaging. I sometimes love to have notification in my app, and I didn't talk much at the notification. I leave that because it's super hard to call about the notification. I'll leave just for the example. Usually, most of the apps out there have notification because it's keeping the engagement of your user and keeping him in the app. Duolingo, for example, have amazing notifications, and they are taking the users back, just notifying them in the notifications. Or it can be chat notification, new message, new GIF, and other things. You have 2 types of the notification: the background and foreground. Because that's totally different behavior of the notification. If user don't have your app opened, you just want to have notification badge on the app and notification event in the notification feed up in the top bar. Or if your app has been opened, you want to also show the notification that happened. And those two things are totally different for the Firebase and totally different handled by the SDK, because you want to handle them differently. Background handler, waiting for each notification that's happening in Firebase, and you can download data from the notification. You can pass data to your app without showing the data to your user. That notification saying, "Hey, Mark, how you doing?" can store hundreds of other characters in a background, and you can store those characters into, I don't know, local database or cloud Firestore. Firebase messaging foreground is listening just for the messages, and it's same. If the notification have some data behind, you can get them without showing it to user. That's it. My app has been implemented, and I also forgot about the last screen. The last screen is kind of hard because it's going to be cloud storage. We already showed that, how to upload the file and get download URL. It's going to be Firestore and also search. Search by default is not in a Firebase. You can do queries on your database. You can't do queries on the cloud storage, but you can use third-party libraries like Algolia for search. Also, there is no geo search in a cloud Firestore. There are libraries for that. And those libraries like Algolia have support for the Firestore and cloud storage. Okay, I deployed my app and it has bugs. It has a bug like that. I will fix one and other three will show. I have Crashlytics. I know about that crashes, and I can record those errors to Cloud Firestore and know about the line that's causing the crash. Firebase performance. I know how my app is behaving. I know that for after my sixth update, my app is 10% faster than it's been for the last 7 days, and it's great because usually you want to keep your app fast and simple. And security. It's a big question for Firebase because, as I said on the start, you just implement the SDK and don't worry about the security that much. All the things that are happening between your client and the server are handled by the Google. Okay, how does it with the security? There are security rules for that. The security rules are simple rules like the document that you where you explain how your app is going to be secured. Can be, I don't want to big feed called without authenticated user. I don't want to have new post on your feed in a cloud Firestore without image. Those things can be handled by security rules. This is the simplest rule that you can have. I have my document or my collection of burgers. Each burger have own reviews, and each review ID or each review is allowed to be read just by the if the mark on the document is, if it's marked as a public, and we are allowing users to write only when there is stars amount, and or when there is stars in in the request. But you can get beyond that. You can check amount of fields that it has. If it has some missing fields, or if the created by, for example, is string or timestamp. And that's it. I'm faster than I wanted, but I don't have anything than that to say to you. Thank you for being here with me, and I hopefully give you a quick interaction through Firebase and notice it. And I'm waiting for the questions in the chat. I have already some of them from the Zygmunt, but I will try to answer all of those. Okay, I will get first one. Who does Firebase capture anonymous? Who does Firebase capture the anonymous activity? I don't know what did you mean it for with that? If the anonymous activity is tracked by the analytics, or please, Zygmunt, if you are there, please try to explain a bit more that question. I will answer it later. Okay, is data stored distributed in various regions? Yeah, it's going to be distributed between the regions to keep availability for all of users and keeping it fast. Can a real-time database connected to a Kotlin application be accessed through REST API or only by references? It can be called by the REST API. It's called HTTPS trigger. You have after going to you can create through Cloud Functions access to a real-time database. I will not recommend it because it's not that secure as a security rules, and do rather the reference or the using the SDK. But you can create Cloud Function with the HTTPS endpoint that will call the real-time database, and that's your REST API. But I will not recommend it because it's not that secure. There is no like REST API. As far as I know, there is no REST API for the real-time database. How Firebase could be combined with the actual backend? Firebase is just on the top of the cloud, Google Cloud. You can have own compute engines there, own app engines there, own other databases are SQL, MySQL, and other databases. All of the features can be combined with because it's on your Google Cloud. It's on top of your Google Cloud, the Firebase. And you still have access to Google Cloud features, and you can't call them through Firebase SDK. You probably gonna call them through HTTPS points, like the REST APIs, and create those points. Firebase is just creating a layer on the features on some features from the Google Cloud, and keeping those features simple to use. But you can combine compute engines and other Firebase Google Cloud features with your Firebase project. I hopefully answered that question if I understand it right. What do you recommend as a front end with Firebase? Would your Firebase work well with the Flutter? Yeah, I've been using Flutter for now several years. I've been using from the 0.3 version, and from the 0.4 I'm using it with Firebase, and I've been happy with that. I will highly recommend you to use Flutter with the Firebase. The SDK is fully supported, and it's been maintained by the Firebase team. Flutter Web is not that great now, but they are working on it. But if you want to create your mobile app, I will recommend you to use Flutter. Do multiple Firebase services interact with each other in case of triggers? Do multiple Firebase services interact with each other in case of... each trigger is on its own. They are not communicating between. There is no communication between them. When there is, like, for example, database write, and there is trigger for that's causing the cloud function to run, there is nothing happening in cloud storage or authentication. There is no interaction between other Firebase services, and there is nothing like trigger that is waiting for multiple services. You are waiting for a single service, or have multiple like functions that are waiting for a multiple services, multiple triggers waiting for multiple services, but it's always one-to-one. Can we create real-time database instance to make a snapshot? You can do backups for a real-time database. It's also supported by Firebase by default, but you can create also own real-time database instance, because again, it's on top of the Firebase, on top of the Google Cloud, and real-time database is in a Google Cloud, and you can have multiple databases there. Multiple real-time databases to be 100% sure in that question. Are the passwords stored for the user's authenticated hash automatically? Yeah, they are hashed automatically. They are super secured, and you don't really have to worry about the security about the passwords. By the way, also Firestore is encrypted by default on the client side. Those things are handled by the SDK. The security of the Firebase is really good when you implement it right, but you can do on every service you can just few. Now, sorry about audience, you can do fuck ups there, but yeah, it's automatically hashed. If you would like to develop something real big, is that good option to start with Firebase and migrate to GCP as a backend later when you reach limit in scalability? At which point Firebase reaches its limits? Are there such limits at all? Great question, by the way. Very Zygmunt, I see you on the screen. Thank you for that question. There are limits. Yeah, there are limits. Mostly in the later is much cheaper to implement own backend than the cloud function. I call it sometimes cloud function black hole for the money, because when your client calls one endpoint 100 times, you are paid by each call, and you can't really block them to do that. And cloud functions have to always trigger a new instance for that cloud function. For the scalability, in the example of Cloud Firestore, there are no limits really, because Cloud Firestore is a part of the GCP, to be honest, and that database is ready for high scalability and high availability. But I will recommend start with the Firebase, because it's gonna help you to grow really fast with that simple SDK, and later you can implement, for example, your own GCP structure and have it much customized for your use case, because Firebase is trying to help all the developers, and usually the SDKs are ready for default calls and the default flows in your app. But if you have something really difficult or something complicated implementation in your GCP, Firebase is not really ready for that. It's just helping you at the start. But I know about lots of companies that are using Firebase for hundreds of thousands of users, and they are good to go, and they have no problem with the build or the structure of the Firebase. Could the Firebase be used as a source of valid real-time data instead of WebSockets? Yep. It can be used as a valid source of real-time data, especially in the case of real-time database. Cool, by the way, cool lighting on your site. Yeah, blue lighting is cool. By the way, I will keep on. It can be used as a valid source instead of WebSockets, because real-time database is opening WebSockets. Then yeah, it can be. Any other question? I will try to answer all of them. Which type of database would be better to implement when data storage is limited and messaging is important? Firestore or Realtime? When data storage is limited and messaging is important. Depends on your data, to be honest. If you have lots of calls for small amount of data, I will go for the real-time database. If you have larger amount of data, but for example, just one call at the start of the app, go for the Cloud Firestore. But you can find lots of videos for the Firebase team on the YouTube. They are explaining differences between the real-time database and Firestore. There is also a website on the official Firebase docs. There is which is like form for you, and you just fill it up with your information, and it will answer you if your use case is for your Firestore or real-time database. But if I don't know the type of data that you have, like Firestore have limitation in case of data for that one document. I don't know if it's like it is real, right? I never like reach it. You can store like pretty much whole book in one document, but we're gonna pay for that. And same thing you can do on the real-time database. You can store under key value in JSON the whole book. Anything happening on the offline side? Is it good, or should I continue or wait?
Yes, we have. Yeah, you can say it. So we have some technical difficulties suddenly, but you can proceed with the online attendance, I guess.
Okay. Sounds good.
Projector just turned off itself.
Okay. I don't have like any other question in the chat. Do anyone on the offline side have question, or anyone that joined with the microphone have question for me? I would
Yeah,
love to.
if you have a question, feel free to ask now. You can even come closer. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
If no question
Just
is
a moment.
okay, what was your record high payment to Firebase? That's a really personal question, to be honest. I don't want to answer that because under lots of things are under NDA, but I can just say it's been thousands of dollars. But sometimes I just hit the free limit. By the way, Firebase have at the start a free limit, and you don't have to worry about the payment when you use Firebase at the start of the app, and the payments for the usage. Firebase have like free limit. Is there any well-known app you could name that is in a play and uses Firebase, or maybe something you put into production? Okay, Tweetership, by the way, the app that I am like CTO of is on the Firebase, and other apps that you can find on my CV or the Twitter are also running on the Firebase. Alibaba, by the way, using Firebase. That's a great company. BMW BMW using Firebase. Okay, I'm thinking about the big companies now. I think Duolingo using Firebase too for the notification. Lots of companies using for the notification and authentication. I don't have anything other than those companies that I named in my mind, but I think Duolingo and BMW is kind of big. Yeah, Firebase is not. You can find those on the Firebase website. Some of them are named there. Let me get quick. Yeah, Duolingo, New York Times, Trivago, Gameloft, Alibaba, Lyft. Those are kind of like New York Times is using Firebase. I will not say if all of those are using all the features from the Firebase, like the hosting or the or database, but they are using at least one service from the Firebase. Yeah, Lyft, like the Uber, and it's a in some countries it's Uber. Yep. Any other question? Yep. That's a great thing on a Firebase. Zikmund posting in the chat for the offline people that Firebase scales really well. That's what I said. You don't really worry about the scaling. Google does that for you, and you just implement the Firebase in SDK and use it. That's a great thing that you want to hear at the start of the app, at the start of your startup. You want to scale quickly. The audience have any other question? I see the camera really well. How many of you there used Firebase? Just do this for me. Okay, 2, 3. It's kind of hard on the online part, but I have for the first time have offline audience. Great. At least 4 people there. I don't know how many there, but at least 4 people there used Firebase. And do this if it's been great or bad, or do this if it's been great. Okay, great. Okay, love it. What is the scenario when you need more than Firebase is capable of? You have GCP behind that. That's the answer. If the Firebase is not capable of the things that you want, you can implement other things on the GCP and call it with your own backend. Sometimes there are called things Firebase extensions. That's a new thing from the last year. And that's pre-built cloud functions for some use cases. I know that one extension is for the billing of your user after some payment. I don't want to. There's a question. I don't want to spend a penny. Can I still use features like machine learning and database storage? Yes, it's in a free tier. Can I? Yeah. Can I about the payments? Yeah. There are things called Firebase extensions. Those extensions are like pre-built features on top of the Firebase features, and you just ask Firebase to implement that or implement that endpoint that you just gonna call. And one example of the extension was the payment. You can have there's implemented the extension from the Firebase team for the billing of your user. You just click install the extension, and it will connect to the Stripe and use the cloud storage and cloud Firestore and do whole billing for you. So for startup, Firebase is the way to go instead of starting to develop a native app with the GCP. Yep. Simple answer. Yep. I will 100% go with the Firebase. And after that, a great thing on the Firebase, usually when once your database is downloaded, it's available also offline. That's a great thing when you have like app with the books. How did you? Okay, we went behind Bill. We went from the Firebase question to expert question. How did you become an expert? I've been active in a Firebase several years. I helped some like I did some public contributions to their SDKs. I did some events about the Firebase. I also did lots of talks about the Firebase, usually in a Czech language, not English. English, it's not that common for me, but I'm fine with that. And after some like talks, events, and contribution, I have been recognized by Google that my knowledge of the Firebase is really good, and they motivates me for the they not motivates me, nominates me for the expert. That means my story. I just been active, and by the way, expert have lots of not just the Firebase. You can be expert in Flutter. You can be expert. I don't know, in Dart, in the Angular, in the web technologies, the machine learning, and my recommendation: just be active, and soon you're going to be recognized by Google or other experts, and they will ask Google to nominate you as an expert. Thank you for the greetings to the GUC. That's a Czech community like the GDG, but we have more groups there than just the GDG. I will pass that greetings. Do you work for Google? Nope. No expert work for Google. We are close. I'm close with Firebase team. I'm keeping chat with them. I'm exchanging emails with them, but I'm not employed by the Google. I can say anything about Google, and then don't worry about the things that's gonna happen with me. But I'm close with the Googlers, especially with the Firebase team. They are giving me access to alpha features or beta features. They're asking me about the feedback for Firebase. I'm posting them. For example, in this talk is going to be posted to Firebase team too. And it's been great for several years to be close with the Googlers and not be like, I would love to be probably once be employed by Google. I would love to try it, but I'm happy to be at least close with them. One of the privileges of the expert is the access to alpha or beta features, but also you have access to offline events. If I'm going to be invited, I don't know, to London to offline event, Google is going to pay the travels and the accommodation there for me. That's one of the privileges of the expert. They want me to share my knowledge around the world, and they are helping me to do that. Next time I'm going to fly to Hungary probably and see you in person. Hopefully. Yep. I would love to next time. Never been there, to be honest. Any other question? Hungary is just open. Okay. Yep. I would love to. Hungary is just opening. Yeah, it's the same in the Czech. Yeah, it's just opening. Hopefully the travels will start, and I will travel to other countries soon under Google approvement. Okay, any question to our expertise or the Firebase? If not, I think you can go. Like, thanks for inviting. You don't have to thank me for the presentation. I was happy to give you interaction. If you have any question or a question gonna comes up, please hit me on the Twitter or mostly there. I have my DMs open there, and ask me about anything that you want to do in your Firebase, and I will try to answer. And thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you, Dominik, so much for the amazing presentation, and it was so informative, and we got learned more about Firebase. And so your contact is on the chat, right?
Yeah, mostly on the Twitter chat. I can share my this presentation to your group if you want that.
We could share it later.
Yeah, I will share it, and hit me on the Twitter mostly. I'm pretty active there. Okay, thank you, and thanks everyone for being here, and that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.